I awake to find myself in a grave predicament. An ambush must have been laid out for my men and I. I cannot recall how I ended up in this darkened box. Alas, I fear death is at hand. Oh, how I wish to kiss the lips of my dearest Beatrice once more, to feel her gentle silk hands caress my face. It saddens me to know she'll be struck with grief when she is informed of my imminent and sure demise. Eleanor, shouted Phoebe, the fair-skinned maiden, the soon-to-be stepmother of the young and rather clumsy Eleanor. Eleanor was in her room, struggling to pull up her petticoat. Eleanor, we're going to miss the wedding, dear. Hurry! Phoebe shouted again from the stairway. Eleanor's face expressed panic as she staggered from her room to the top of the stairs while battling her petticoat. As she made her way, waving at Phoebe, coming much too close to the stairs. With great force, she pulled her petty past her thighs as she adjusted it. She took a step too close and tumbled down the stairs, landing at Miss Phoebe's feet. Oh, Eleanor! She rushed with fear. Eleanor, dear, you must be more careful. Can we please have one day without you hurting yourself? She stated while helping Eleanor to her feet. Eleanor was rather embarrassed. She dusted off her white and blue dress and smiled. Shall we be off then? Said Phoebe with a warm smile. Eleanor nodded. All right, come on, the carriage is waiting. She took Eleanor's hand gently, and the two hopped in the horse-drawn buggy. Eleanor looked out the window of the cart with a melancholy expression on her face, reminiscing of the days her family felt whole, of her mother and of her brother. As the carriage went past their old home, Eleanor's heart felt heavy. Phoebe looked down to her soon-to-be stepdaughter. Eleanor, dear, are you all right? She asked. Eleanor looked to Phoebe and smiled. Phoebe looked away and then back at Eleanor. I know I could never replace your mother, Eleanor, but I don't see why we can't be friends. It must be hard for you, all this change, but it can be good. Eleanor's gaze became fixed at her feet, listening to Phoebe's honeyed words. I was going to give you this after the wedding, but I want you to have this now. Phoebe reached into her purse and pulled out a monogrammed locket. Eleanor quickly looked at the lovely trinket being presented to her. Phoebe began to open it. Look, it is a portrait of your mother and brother, and a portrait of your father and I. I had this made just for you. Your mother, she was very beautiful. And look at your brother's kind eyes. I know that they're up in heaven smiling down on you, dear. Eleanor stared in awe. She slowly reached for the beautiful locket of silver, looking at it with a saddened smile, tears welling up in her eyes. She quickly hugged Phoebe. Eleanor, I'm so glad that we're going to become a family. As the two hugged tightly, the carriage approached the chapel. The rider opened the door. My lady, he said. Phoebe wiped Eleanor's tears from her eyes. Come on, then. They took each other's hands and went into the church. Eleanor sat in the pews next to her grandmother. Phoebe, in her lovely wedding gown of white, seemingly floated down the aisle. Eleanor's eyes skimmed all across the room, looking at how beautiful everything was. Could a moment be more perfect? Then her eyes met her father. For the first time in years did she see him look so happy. A slight sorrow came over her heart, staring at her father. He looked so handsome. While the two said their vows, the thought crossed Eleanor's mind. While everyone watched him, they look so happy. They really look like a family. While the thought drifted in her mind, the gathered people stood to their feet and cheered. Eleanor quickly snapped from her daydream. She clapped happily with glee. She looked down at the locket Phoebe had given her and smiled. The friends and family all met in the newlyweds' manner. On this day, two hearts become one, said Phoebe's brother. While they all sat at the dining table, Eleanor felt saddened. 2 hearts, she thought. 2 hearts made whole. She didn't understand this bittersweet feeling she had. She gained a mother, and her father smiled more than he had in years. Oh no, dearest brother, outspoke Phoebe. On this day, 3 hearts become one. Phoebe stated with laughter. Today, I've gained a loving husband and a beautiful daughter. she said, looking at Eleanor. Everyone smiled and cheered. The people danced and laughed the night away. Eleanor excused herself and went into her new bedroom, decorated with lovely gifts and fine linens, looking at all the new dolls and trinkets her new mother and father had gotten for her. She sat on her bed, looking at her mother and brother's faces. Her fingers traced over the portrait. She placed it open on her nightstand and blew it a kiss, and laid in her bed and silently cried herself to sleep. It appears as I am not dead yet, that I find myself in the care of a mere child, whose name I do not know. I fear my left leg is broken, and my right side pains me so. Though this girl tends me well, she brings me bread and water, and has dressed my wounds, but yet the thought of my dearest Beatrice brings me some joy. It troubles me to think of how worried she must be. I pray God grants her the serenity to carry on, for I do not know how long I am for this world, but for now I shall rest. A long-standing building stands on a lovely street in town where the angelic voice of Beatrice Carpin could be heard for blocks while she practiced her singing. "Vivian, come quick," she screamed. "Did you make the tea?" Vivian nodded her head. "Aye, milady, I did." Beatrice smiled. "Oh, I see. Let me guess. You were trying to kill me?" she questioned. "No, milady. 'Tis mint tea as you requested." Beatrice sighed. "I can see that, you fool, but this is warm tea." Vivian stood still and nodded. "Aye, ma'am." Beatrice stood to her feet and threw the cup on the ground as it shattered. "You fool! I can only drink lukewarm tea before my warm-ups. Are you trying to ruin my voice?" Vivian rolled her eyes. "No, milady, my mistake. I shall have the maid fetch you a new one of proper temperature." Beatrice scoffed. "Ugh! For my apprentice you surely lack basic knowledge. How am I to teach someone who cannot be taught? Even the simplest of things?" Vivian's eyes rolled again. "Listen here. You are the only apprentice I have, and the only apprentice I shall take, but only because you are the Duke's daughter. I've never dealt with such disrespectful child as yourself. And furthermore, the very little talent and improvement you've shown is all because of I. Do not forget it, Vivian." Vivian sighed with annoyance. "Aye, milady." She left the room to bring Beatrice another cup of tea. A sigh slipped from Beatrice's lips. "Oh, Cecil, my dear, I wish you'd come home."